Hello and welcome to Swedish Facebook Live. My name is Mona Locke. I'm the Chief Communications Officer here at Swedish. Thank you for joining us today. And we're tackling a very timely topic of post-win mental health. So I think we'd all agree that this has been an extremely stressful time of year with elections this week, and we've all been dealing with an additional wave of emotions. It could get overwhelming at times. So what can you do? Today, I'm joined by two experts from Sweden. We have Dr. Jenny O'Donnell. She's a clinical psychologist. We have Kurt Blad, who is a member of our Swedish Wellness Committee. Some tips on and strategies really on how to manage the stress during these times. We would love to have you also ask some questions real time. So please feel free to chat in your questions and them as soon as you see them. And I'd like to start with you first. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Happy to be here. Thank you, Mona, for the invitation.
Yes, and so we're all managing a lot of different things this year. Crazy year, right? We have COVID, ongoing concerns about that, personal day-to-day stress, and now we have the uncertainty of the election. What are some tips that you can give us on how we can cope with the stress?
Thank you. Yeah, there are some few things that people can do, some simple things. I think first and foremost is controlling what you can control in your life and starting small. So one of the most kind of the secret ingredients is getting physical. Exercise. We know this physical exercise is key. It underscores so much in life. It produces the natural endorphins that help us feel good. It helps our joints move and all these things. But this doesn't have to be complex. I think many times gyms may be closed. Maybe there's some apprehension to go to gyms during COVID and at risk of exposure. There's many things that individuals can do right at home or in their own neighborhood that are low cost. One example is a 7-minute scientific workout. That's a mix of anaerobic or cardio and also strength training and anaerobic exercises. Something simple. There's several apps. A simple search on the internet can find this. This is something that I do on a regular basis. It's also something that I can apply and take with me when I go on vacations or in holidays, and maybe your regular routine is thrown for a loop. It's something you can easily fit in. It's 7 minutes, and you can repeat it. You can scale it up. Other things are just simple body weight exercises. There are cards that people can find. You can do card games. You can do a simple search on the internet for different body weight exercises. You can keep that fresh. Or you can do the most basic thing is get out and walk. Put on some shoes and some simple clothes that allow for some movement. Get out and walk and run outside of the cost of shoes, and you can run barefoot if you so choose. You can get out and move. Those all pay extreme health dividends to your life. Kind of the target is 150 minutes of moderate intense exercise, and the ideal mix is cardio with some weight training. But that is very doable. So you kind of aim for an hour, 5 days a week, you're good.
So 150 minutes a week is what you're saying?
Yep, 150 minutes. And once again, mixing cardio and strength training is ideal. And then another simple thing is getting outside. There is power in nature. There's power in just getting outside, even if you are in the city and seeing life around you, seeing, whether it's a plant, whether it's seeing fellow humans, a child, or, an animal, seeing a sunrise and a sunset. We've all experienced this. It speaks to us on a very organic and natural level. It helps us reset. And we realize, there's order in this world. And while things might be out of control, life goes on and we see it. And it does build, our own mental health and wellness as well. Another one is gaining control of your diet. This is something that's probably the most challenging for individuals. What is deemed healthy is contradict with some other report and some expert here and there. Keep it simple. People have been eating food for generations. Eating more fruit and vegetables is always a winning combination, a winning solution. Eating food in its season. Food in its season is usually less expensive. It's fresh and it tastes better. So it's a win-win-win on multiple levels. Plus, it adds a little diversity and variety to your calendar. As you're trying to come up with meals, you say, what's in season? And it just adds that variety and a little bit of spice to life. And then doing simple things like packing a lunch. We are creatures of habit, and if something is before us, or let's say a candy dish or something like that, and maybe it's a temptation for us, if it's there, we're going to eat it. So the more you can put some structure in your life and pack a lunch, you're going to make better food choices because you're not reacting. So those are a couple options. Another one is expressing gratitude. There is secret power in expressing gratitude. You can do this for yourself. A simple exercise like a gratitude journal. It could be, one to three items of things that went well that you want to note in a journal. Obviously, that's for you. Writing that down is also powerful. But you can do a simple exercise at home with someone else and say, share a highlight of the day. In my family, we share a high and low on the day. What went well? What's something else we can work on? And then this is actually something new with our tech savvy world, and everybody seems to have a smartphone, is to create a gratitude photo album. So take a picture of something that you're grateful for, that's meaningful for you, and keep it in a photo album on your phone that you can access wherever you are. It's at your fingertips. So when you need to take a moment to pause, a break to kind of reset and refocus, look at what is going right in your life, the things that you're grateful for. And that has a powerful transcendent effect upon all aspects of your life. And then taking it to that next level, expressing gratitude, not just to yourself, but to someone else through a thank you note. Maybe it's a direct message. Maybe it's a text message or an email. What will happen will surprise you. You'll feel good doing so. And usually it'll reciprocate a very kind, genuine response on the other side. So it is a powerful, simple solution that you can do to help feel like life is okay. And then finally, in light of some of what's going on with the elections, is being civil and getting involved in your community. These are simple things. Even if you feel like the world's closing out or is troublesome around you, you can be that example. You can get involved. You can be the example that you hope others are doing. Maybe you do it for the next generation. Maybe you do it for your family or for your friends. Be that express that community citizenship spirit how you want. Do simple acts of kindness. Once again, could be a thank you note. Could be raking the leaves. Could be taking some baked goods or delivering a meal to someone that has had, some struggles, or maybe they've welcomed a baby in their life or something like that. Those simple acts of kindness mean a lot and do a lot. So those are a few simple things that individuals can do in their lives that are going to make a difference. They build confidence, they release natural endorphins, and they make you feel good.
Wow, Kurt, you're like the poster child of positivity. So thank you. Those are just a few things. That was a great list of things, and a good thing I can watch this over again and make sure I make my list. A couple of things you said that really resonate to me is we've started this saying with my family with the gratitude right before we sit down for a meal. It's always that moment of gratitude. What are we thankful for today? And also just thinking of all things that are positive in our lives. I think oftentimes we focus on the negative, right? Because those are the things going wrong. So thank you for listing all that out. A thing that, and I'm sure Dr. O'Donnell has some tips too, but I think our family, in the midst of COVID, we would just get in the car and drive. As you said, it resonated with me, being outside. We wouldn't even get out of our car. We might stretch, get in the car and drive back. So thank you for those tips. Dr. O'Donnell, what we notice is, and I've heard from a lot of friends too, it's like as things heat up and we get stressed, we tend to start taking it out on each other. And I've heard from friends and coworkers and family members. Is this normal, especially in this political landscape, that we might lash out at others, and why?
Yeah, thanks, Mona. And I agree, Kirk, those were some really great strategies, and thanks for kicking us off with those. I would say, one of the biggest pieces that I would encourage, on top of everything that Kirk has already mentioned, is self-compassion. Remembering that this year in particular, but at any given time, we all have so many different things going on, and we're all doing the best that we can given what we have in front of us at that time. So I think if we take a moment, take a breath, and remember that collectively, as a society, we're going through a number of different traumas and stressors that, we get worn down, and we start with this jar full of, self-control marbles each day. And as things come up, and as we have to make decisions, and as we have to, kind of bite our tongue or whatever it might be, we're kind of emptying that jar. So at a certain point, if we've not done any of these other strategies that Kirk has been highlighting, or that work for you as an individual, then what we find is that we are going to start to snap at people, and we're going to be a little bit less than our ideal selves. So I think giving yourself some self-compassion, recognizing that we're not always going to be our best selves, but when something does come up, when we react in a way that is not consistent with how we wanted to approach a situation, saying, that's okay, I'm doing the best I can, and then reaching out and repairing that relationship when and where appropriate.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think also, especially the reaching out, right? And making sure that that person knows it wasn't necessarily meant at them. So what should you do if you feel you're on the receiving end of someone who is rude or disrespectful? Should you do anything?
So I think it's going to be pretty similar that while we need to have compassion for ourselves, we also have to have compassion for the other individuals around us that we're interacting with, and remembering that we're all in this. We're all in different boats, but we're all weathering the same storm. So the way that I'm engaging with this is going to be different than how Kirk or how you, Mona, and others are dealing with this. And each of us have different waves and things and different size boats. And so it's all different, but we're all within the same storm and dealing with a lot of the same things. So I would encourage taking a slow, deep breath, identifying what you need to do for yourself to stay calm and to respond and not react. I think that's where we often get in trouble, and where there's those increased heated discussions is where no one is taking that pause and speaking to themselves, like saying, is this how I want to come across? So if you are on the receiving end, taking a moment and making sure that you're continuing to respond in a way that's consistent with yourself and your values, rather than reacting and then both of you getting more and more tense. I often find one of the other great ways to slow down is to lower your voice. So to take that moment and speak softer, because then the other person has to slow down and strain a little bit more to hear you. And so that engages their active listening and can, again, kind of start to slow things down a little bit for a more calm and rational discussion in hopes.
I like that. But, say you get an email or someone, makes a remark to you and you feel like you're wronged. Is there a time when you just don't react at all? Or do you feel like we should have a voice? And you kind of approached it with, a quieter voice. Are there any other techniques in like how you can engage someone and not ignite the anger?
Yeah, that is, it's going to depend. Each individual that you're potentially interacting with, as well as kind of what the wrong was and where you're feeling. I am a big fan of assertive communication. So really using, language such as, when you said this, I felt this. So really kind of putting it on the behavior, putting it on the action, and not them as a person. So if we think about what we do with kids, like we really try to say, that choice you made was not a good choice. You're not a bad kid. You made a bad choice. And so I think with adults in these types of conversations and times where we feel like something didn't come across in a great way and we're feeling hurt or upset by it, I think it's important, and it really does depend on the relationship that you have with the person. If it's somebody that's a little bit more removed, and you have to kind of weigh for yourself how important it is for you to put the energy into having that conversation. But again, I would focus as much as you can on your reaction, highlighting like, this is how I responded to this behavior, and really giving an opportunity for that conversation to happen. But I also highly recommend taking that breath, taking a moment, and really grounding yourself in what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and then approaching the individual after you've had some time to process. And it's okay to walk away, and it's okay to not respond immediately.
It's kind of like keeping yourself in check first before you respond, and then taking a second to think, and as you said, maybe take a deep breath before actually responding or taking action, which is all great advice. And again, a reminder for anyone listening today or watching today to please chat in any questions you have for our experts. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, you mentioned kids and, kid behavior, I should say. Is there anything specific that we should be doing to help our kids cope with the stress? They probably feel the stress in their parents somewhat, right?
Yeah, so I'll start, and then I'm going to hand it over to Kirk to get his input. But I think the big thing that I would highlight with kids is teaching them how to take a deep breath, teaching them how to regulate their emotions, and giving them that tool, because that's going to be something that's going to serve them in a number of ways throughout their life. So as you're focusing and learning for yourself how to kind of regulate and how to bring yourself back down and manage your own stress, helping them to find what works for them. Do they need to go and find a quiet corner that they have coloring available to them, or they've got some kinetic sand or blocks or whatever it might be that's particularly calming for them. So I think teaching them to go access their toolbox when they need it. And then beyond that, I think there's just so many of the things that Kirk had already talked about, instilling a sense of gratitude, and having those opportunities to focus on the positive, to help them to really have those conversations. Again, this is also going to really depend on the age of the person that you're talking about, whether it's a little kid versus an adolescent, and how much you're kind of talking about what's happening in the world. I think it's important to have those honest conversations at an age appropriate level and be ready to kind of just focus on your family values and educating them based on kind of what's coming up. So I'll let Kirk talk.
Great. Well, thank you. Wonderful entree.
Yeah, it is okay to say mommy or daddy is really stressed right now. And this is why, depending on the age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Our children, so I have 4 children in our family, and they sense the stress. They sense the uniqueness of this year. You can't hide it. Something we just actually recently started just in the last few days and weeks to give our kids a little sense of stability and assurance that we're there is something, it's called an 8-second hug. And just embracing our children and just letting them feel heartbeat to heartbeat, that physical connection, there is power in that. And it's good. It's wonderful for us as adults to feel that. We always struggle to try to have meaningful moments with our children. And that's one simple thing that we've done. I mentioned that high and low that we do on a daily basis. Either that's at bedtime, maybe it's around the dinner table, and then taking time just to focus on each other, get outside. Kids feel cooped up, at a basic level, when they're young, they want to move around. So finding a way to express that physical movement and desire gives them some sense of control as well and choice. Now, these are all easier said than done, but they are simple things that anyone can do. Children bring so much joy. They do add an extra level of stress for families and parents. I think being real and being, open to growth for yourself and your parenthood journey is also important.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love those recommendations. And I just want to touch a little bit about, like we've talked about stress a lot, and maybe there's also anxiety and depression. So how do you help someone if a family member or a neighbor or friend who you feel is depressed, is there anything we should be doing for those in our community and our loved ones?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that we can do is to reduce the stigma and to have conversations about it. One of the things that I've been saying over and over again in a lot of conversations I have is it's okay to not be okay. Especially right now, it's okay to not be okay. So one strategy that actually one of our Swedish leaders has talked about is, when you're running into somebody, you're walking on the sidewalk and you see your neighbor, oh, how's it going? How are you? And they say, oh, I'm doing fine, thanks. Stopping and asking, no, really, how are you? And meaning it. Same with coworkers or family members, whoever it might be. Taking the time to really ask and invite them to acknowledge that they're not okay. And if you've seen something, especially behaviorally, like, hey, I've noticed that you're not responding to text messages as promptly, or that you've been a little more withdrawn, whatever it might be, what you're noticing that's a change for them, bring that up and just say, I'm worried about you, or I'm here if you need me, but this is what I'm noticing, and is there anything I can do? And really just being there and willing to hear them and have that conversation. Again, our society, we are so attuned to just, I'm okay, everything's fine, or getting into just complaining rather than really acknowledging kind of what some of the root things are that are going on. So just being a good friend, family member, neighbor, colleague, and really just asking how are you really, asking it again and stopping and letting them answer, not just the passing by in the hallway and yeah, nope, things are good, thanks. And really being interested. I think that's one of the best ways that we can start to help each other.
Yeah, that's hard, I think, because it's hard to open up too, right? If someone asks you, I think we're so used to that. You make a good point. Just saying, I'm okay. So, and I think probably practicing that too, right? Being able to open up if you're not okay and reach out to your friends and family. I have one last question, and it is really for both of you in terms of if with the election, when the results come in, whoever is deemed the next president with a lot of other things that may ensue and the uncertainty. And if there's civil unrest in any way in areas of the country, how should we protect ourselves, both physically and mentally, or prepare ourselves for that?
Yeah, so the piece that I would emphasize is focus on what you can control. There's so much that's out of our control at this point. So focus on the things that are within your control. That might mean taking a break from social media, might mean turning notifications off, really checking in with things at certain times of the day where it's not going to be distracting to everything else that you're doing. Because that task switching is one of the things that's really difficult on our brains and our bodies. And I think just, again, going back to self-compassion, being kind to yourself, being kind to others around you, and grounding in what's important to you. If there's a certain, so there's so many individuals that are out protesting and feel very strongly about different things. And, that's important to them. And, being supportive of them and their rights to do that. If it's something that's important to you, jumping in and doing that yourself, but knowing what is really your values and what are the things that you can and want to do. But taking a break, setting your own boundaries, and making sure to use all of the different skills and strategies that we've talked about today, all of that's going to help buffer and give you a slightly different ability to engage with the unknown that we're facing these days.
Mona,
Definitely. There's a question that came up. Yeah, there's a question. Can you talk a little bit about appropriate use of humor to lighten the tone with a group?
Well, this is something I like to do, as those that are familiar with me. Humor has, powerful effect upon, just your own mood, on the mood of a group. I've inherited old man dad humor as I've become a father. So most of my humor is probably more punny, and it's just the way that my mind works on that. But I think you have to have a humor with yourself. I mean, you're not gonna be perfect, and I think you have to make yourself at least vulnerable and laugh at things that you do, and I think just share and just celebrate. Make the most of mistakes that you're gonna make in your life, learn from them, and go forward. But humor is absolutely critical. It's tough to say, oh, just be funny, because that's kind of defeats the purpose. You can't be purposeful, but it has to be natural. So that's the challenge with humor. But look what's going on in your world, whether it's a work project or something at home, and be kind to yourself and laugh every once in a while. It's good. It really is, has health benefits. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it can be healing. Thank you. And really quickly, we'll do a little last round robin. Leave me with your last thoughts and recommendations for folks out there. We'll start with Kurt.
Well, I would, we talked a lot about different tips and things to do. I would start small. Start and master one thing. Try one thing, a couple of things that I threw out there. Maybe try one, master that before you move on to the next. Often we think, oh, I got to be healthy. We envision this huge boulder. And it does take energy and effort to get that boulder moving. But once it's moving, the effort is not the same. I mean, your structure and routine will maintain. So I would say start small, get that pebble or boulder moving, and then build from there. And use prompts, alarms, alerts on your phones to adopt healthy behaviors. Simple things can make a big difference. Start small, build confidence, build some, realize you have control, and then go forward.
That I can remember. Dr. O'Donnell?
Great, Kirk. Excellent feedback. And yeah, I would build on the same thing. I think I just keep coming back to knowing what is in your control versus what's not in your control. Focus on doing things that you have control over, and letting go of the things that you do not, and engaging in self-compassion and compassion for others. I think if we can ground in that, then we'll be able to build on all the other strategies, and just be kind to yourself and recognize that it's okay to not be okay.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kurt Blad, Dr. Jenny O'Donnell. We really appreciate your words of wisdom. And to everyone out there, thank you for watching. We hope that some of this can resonate with you and help. And as Kurt said, small steps, and just take care of yourself. Stay healthy. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.